Hello everyone, this is Salah. You're watching Smart Code, and today we are going to add another student JavaScript project in our project list. So in this simple and short tutorial, you will learn how to implement password visibility toggling. It's a very useful feature and it helps visitors to make sure the password they are entering is correct or not. So how it works, on so many websites you have seen a show password checkbox, and when you check the checkbox, password masking is gone and you can see your password in clear text. And when you uncheck the checkbox, password masking is applied again, right? So it's a JavaScript behind this checkbox and performing toggling. So we are going to program this application and we use checkbox to execute the JavaScript. But there's another option instead of checkbox. You can also put an eye icon to the right of the password text box. And by clicking on the icon, you can call JavaScript code to do the same job. And the eye icon you can easily get from the Bootstrap. So I will do an enhanced version of this application in the future, and I will show you how to insert Bootstrap eye icon and how to make it work to get the same result, right? So let's get into it and start with the HTML. So in my VS Code, I have three files: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. CSS and JavaScript file are already included in the HTML. Now in the HTML, so let's first take a wrapper for the entire program. Now inside the wrapper, we will create our HTML form with some input fields. Let's first take a div for the program title. Now we will take another div for defining the username area. Let's call it username. Now inside this div, we need an input tag for the username. Right, so the input tag has type text and it's going to create a text box in the browser. And so you see the output in the browser, right? And so now we are going to define the password area. Now the second input text type attribute is password, and this is going to create a text box where password masking is applied. That means when you write something in the text box, you will see only asterisk. Let's check it out in the browser. Now, if I write something in username text box, you see clear text, but when we write something in the password, you see only asterisks, right? Now here you might get some idea what JavaScript going to do. Look here, we only have input tag, and what makes an input tag different from another tag is the type attribute. If the type is text, you will get a normal text box. But if the type is password, you will get a password text box. Now the JavaScript is gonna toggle this type attribute of this input field between text and password. And so is the logic behind the scene. If you don't get it, just wait for a couple of minutes. We are going to program it in the JavaScript. And so now we need a checkbox. So let's code it. And so finally, we will create a login button. Right, so our form is ready. And this is how it will look in the browser. And now the CSS. CSS is already written for this project, and I'm going to put it into the CSS file. It's a very simple CSS, and you can see I'm using commonly used properties like width, margin, text align, font size, background color, and padding. And after applying the CSS, our page will change its looks, as you can also see on the screen. And you can download the source code from the link provided in the description. So you get the entire CSS, or you can write your own CSS. Let's now start the final round. In the final round, we will write JavaScript. So the JavaScript is gonna execute itself when you click on the checkbox. So the first step should be to bind a click event to the checkbox. So let's first implement the step number 1 and assign a click event to the checkbox. So we will first get the checkbox element in the JavaScript. Now we have checkbox in the program, and it's now time to bind a click event and call a function to execute JavaScript. Right, so here is the click event, and whenever you make a click, this function is called. Now in this function, we will apply a very simple logic. Let's now again take a look at the application interface. This checkbox can either be checked or unchecked, right? There is no third option. So whenever a click is performed, we will be checking only for these two possibilities. And this can easily be done using conditionals. In the JavaScript, I will code an if statement and look for the checked possibility. And if the checkbox is not checked, it is for sure unchecked. So we need an else statement, right? So if the checkbox is checked, we will come in the if block, and if it is unchecked, we will come into the else block. And when it is checked, we will show the password. Otherwise, password masking is applied. So now how do we show the password in clear text? Let's look at the HTML. This is our password input text box. The type is password. Now what we need to do in the JavaScript, we will set the type of this input element to text, just like we have in our first text box. And then the password will be visible in clear text. And in the second case, when checkbox is unchecked, we are going to again apply masking by setting the type value to password again, right? So let's program it in the JavaScript. We will first get the input element. And now we will call a function set attribute, and we would say change the type attributes value to text. And in the second case, when the checkbox is unchecked, we are going to apply masking again by setting the type attributes value to password. Right, so this is how you can perform password visibility toggling. Let's now check the application in the browser. So we need to write something in the password text box. And now I want to see my password. And here you see the password is visible. And when I uncheck the checkbox, password masking is applied again, right? So that was a simple JavaScript application, and you learn how to perform password toggling. I hope you liked this one and learned something from that. And the source code can be downloaded from the link I put in the description. I will see you soon, and thanks for watching.